So good afternoon and good morning for our friends in America, and welcome to Universidad Francisco Marroquín in its campus in Madrid. As you know, we are carrying an interview series, debates, lectures about freedom in the internet. We have talked about privacy, free speech, harassment campaigns, and the temptation of regulation, etc., etc. Today, it's a great occasion in which stacks will be presented to the Spanish market and our community. Stacks is a blockchain ecosystem that is building a better internet on Bitcoin with the aim of creating a user-owned internet. Georgina García-Mauriño will lead the conversation with Jenny Mith. Georgina is an active Stacks ambassador and translator of the Stacks 2.0 non-technical white paper. Her commitments come from the Stacks possibilities that offer to self-managed artists and authors. And Georgina will interview Jenny, a member of the Stacks Foundation with broad experience in community development and program management. So hi, Georgina, and welcome.
Thank you very much, Arturo. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you very much to you, especially because since we started thinking of this event, it has taken long. It has been a long time. And then finally we can do it, and I'm very happy to be here and to be here with Jenny, with which as a member of the community of Blockstack, I've been seeing her so actively everywhere in the business model working group, especially, and since I entered in the community, I've been working with her, and I can tell it's precious to have her here and to explain her a bit more in detail what is this new internet, a better internet we are building.
Thank you, Mirlo. I just want to say thank you, Arturo, too, for making this possible. I'm so excited to be here and to be talking to everybody in this particular community. And Mirlo has said some really nice things about me, but I feel like it's really important to let everyone know that Mirlo is such a critical part of this community. I think that your passion and just the importance that you place on building the new internet and how you educate people who aren't necessarily from the crypto and tech world is so inspiring. And just being an artist and being such a ray of light in the community it makes the work a lot easier, because it's very difficult. And I think that the work that we're doing is not something that's going to materialize tomorrow, but it really takes special, passionate people to do it. So thank you for all that you do too.
Well, yes, actually, I wanted to start with the beginning of how Blockstack was born and how I discovered it a few years later. Because as we are in a university, let's explain that Stacks was born in a university too, at Princeton University, when Munib Ali and Ryan Shea met each other in the Department of Computer Science, and they realized they shared their concern, because they had the internet as we know it still today, but at that time it's especially you could only access through really narrow doors. They were concerned about the walled gardens it had become, and that's the reason they started this at that time called Blockstack, and now Stacks, and they started I think building a naming system, and then some applications came there, and let's explain a bit why they realized we needed this internet, this better internet, because we still use these tech giants doors to the internet. Most of the students who have, maybe some of the attendees have answered the survey we have been sharing these days, and many of them may still use the Google and Facebook to get into the internet, and there are other ways, and because we need better ways to use the internet, and that why do we need this? And what needs to be fixed and or improved? What do you start today?
Okay. I had an intro about stacks too, but I feel like that might be too long. So I'll talk about this first. I think that you touched on this already, Mirlo, but basically on the current internet, users don't have any real control, even though they're the ones who are supplying all of the content and all of the membership on the internet, right? So when you talk about Facebook, Instagram, all of these different websites, they wouldn't even exist or be successful without the users themselves. And yet they have so much power and so much control over what you as a user can do on these platforms. So for example, you hear lots of stories about people getting booted from different websites or deplatformed. So PayPal, for example, if you're a vendor and you have a business and you have a PayPal account, if even one of your transactions looks suspicious to people at PayPal, they can kick you off and completely shut you out of cashing out the money or the compensation that is rightfully yours. And because they have so many like legal resources, that process for getting your account back can be so difficult. It's so frustrating as a user, especially if of course there are going to be users who abuse and take advantage of the platform, but if you as a regular user are doing everything right, it can be really shocking to be kicked off of a platform like PayPal and shut off from your own funds. Facebook, I think everybody knows, with all of the documentaries and the articles and research that have come out in the last recent years, I think everybody knows that a platform like Facebook can sell your data to third-party applications. I think everybody here has maybe taken a quiz on Facebook or something, and then when you have to do that, or you participate in a game or you participate in a quiz, it gives you a little box that says, are you okay with sharing your information? And what some users at that moment, you're impatient as a user, as you should be, right? You want a good experience, so you're not going to take the time to read all of the legal disclaimers. But what you're signing away is your data to maybe hundreds or thousands of different third-party companies, and they're using your data to probably advertise to you, and they can do so much with so little data as well, like what you click on, where your mouse goes, what you look at. It really is quite a violation of privacy, especially as a user who trusts this platform to give you a good experience. I think the other side of it is quite insidious and quite dark. And then, with something like YouTube, for example, you have bloggers and you have influencers on YouTube that do make money off of being users of the platform, but it's not these users who dictate how much value they create. YouTube tells you have to hit this number of subscribers in order for your channel to be profitable. That doesn't make any sense, right? Because as a user, you are supplying YouTube with the content that it needs, and also you're supplying it with views. You're telling YouTube, this video is popular, this video is good. They would be nowhere without your usage of the platform. And so when you think about it, as I mentioned earlier, it just makes no sense that these platforms have so much control when they wouldn't even exist, or they wouldn't have any value without their users. So for us, it goes beyond having just a better internet. I think that we want to build a new one entirely. I think that we can use the current infrastructure that we have, but at this stage, and I think that you've seen this with the evolution of Blockstack, Mirlo, it's no longer just about protecting users and giving them alternatives. We want to give users the tools to fundamentally build something different that has a different model.
Absolutely. And I could even add my own experience. You cannot take your audience out from these platforms. You are there, even your audience is not yours. That's critical for people who really rely on these platforms. They start relying, and they at the end of the day, they depend on a sense that even many businesses depend on their platforms. That's absolutely true, and it has to change. And then we have this wonderful technology, blockchain, and actually it's what they saw. I think when they started Blockstack, it's what they saw. They saw the opportunity to change all that, and I had some slides to accompany my my presentation. I'll try to find that. If you don't, you give me just a moment. I'll try to. I had that.
Mirlo, should I give just like an introduction to the
Yes.
stack system?
Yes, absolutely.
Sure.
Absolutely. And then, yes, and then we'll talk about, I'll go to the, to what the new apps could look like, or what is the difference. Yes, go for it.
Sure. I won't go into too much technical detail. I don't think that is necessary, but I'm happy to take some technical questions during Q&A. But I think I can give an overview of what the tech stack looks like. So it is a blockchain system, and it is powered by decentralized technology. And with a lot of these blockchain systems, the decentralized aspect of it is the most important part of it, right? So this idea that information and data can be shared amongst many different users, so you don't have like one central point of failure. Stacks operates according to the same principle. But I can talk a little bit about what Stacks specifically does. So, you know, earlier I talked about how we, as a project, when we started, it started very much to protect users and to give them alternatives. And over time, the evolution has been not just giving users alternatives to the applications that they currently have on the traditional internet, but giving them tools to build a completely new system. So what do those tools include? Actually, I'm gonna go back a little bit. So Mirlo has mentioned the mission of a user-owned internet, and I just want to talk a little bit about what that actually means. So with the user-owned internet, there are three components, right? It means that as a user, you have complete control of your data, your identity, and your wealth. And so the Stacks project has spent a lot of time over the years trying to give users control of all of those things through various features within this blockchain system. So previously there was Stacks 0.1, it was the first version of our blockchain, and that gave users decentralized identity and data storage. So that meant that users could access different applications with one single ID and username, and they could maintain all their data without sharing any of that that personal information or those personal details with third parties. So even the developers of applications wouldn't see your information unless you gave them permission to access it. So it was all about giving users control of their assets, basically. And this is drastically different from the current model of the internet, where websites can somehow access and collect information on everything you do, even when you didn't explicitly tell them that they could. With Stacks, the model is completely flipped. And now we launched our mainnet in January. We have Stacks 2.0. and it's feature complete. So this is our grand master design. But the features on Stacks 2.0, we can talk about those a little later, like the consensus mechanism and things like stacking. They're a little more technical, but the overview is that those features enable users to capture 100% of the value that creates. So earlier I talked about, like, with you as a user of YouTube, you create so much content and so much value for that platform, and yet you don't necessarily get compensated for that. That is different on Stacks 2.0. So basically, it gives you this way of owning your wealth, and it gives you models for building your wealth as well. So you can do that without relying on a centralized institution like a bank or like a hedge fund. So in other words, all of the money that you make on your creations belongs to you, and there's no website or application or third party telling you that you only make money once you hit 1 million views per month, for example, because everything that you do creates value from the very beginning, and our system and our ecosystem recognizes that.
Mm-hmm. And so for just to give a framework to all this is what is the mission of the foundation in this? This is I mean, we have the engineers doing all that. I had there are different parts in this ecosystem, I think. And what is the mission of the foundation here?
Yeah. So.
Because you are part of the foundation. Let's explain.
So I'm part of the Stacks Foundation.
If Artur explain, I don't know if Artur explained that, because after this beginning of Blockstack, when it entered to Stacks 2.0, the funds were funds were given to the foundation, and the PBC, the original public benefit corporation, decentralized itself. I mean, their work, their management was decentralized in a way that the foundation takes care of some things, they take care of some others. And I think, so I would like you to explain a little bit, what is the foundation exactly doing? And
Sure. Yeah. So I think so decentralization is a big part of what we do, and it's common in other blockchain systems and other crypto projects. And sometimes it can feel like you're decentralizing for the sake of decentralizing, but the purpose of doing that is to decentralize power, right? So the original company that you mentioned, Mirlo, Blockstack PBC, that was the original team that built the Stacks project. And traditionally, when companies grow and they get successful, they become bigger, and the team members are kind of forced to continue to align with this one mission. I think what we believe with decentralization is that not only do you want to distribute power, you're recognizing that people can have different visions for what you're building, and when you share that power and you share that resources, you can build faster, you can build more effectively, and you can build for a more diverse audience. So in the Stacks ecosystem, for example, Blockstack PBC has pivoted, and they narrowed their focus. So they're focused specifically on building developer tools. A lot of the original engineers are there, so that makes a lot of sense. And then you have Demon Technologies. They focus on the Asian market and on mining tools. So they're focusing on something very specific, and they're doing it really well. And Freehold, for example, focuses on cultivating really strong communities that believe in hodling cryptocurrencies and producing high quality content around that. And Mirlo, that you're a freeholder, so you've experienced the community there, and that takes us to the Stacks Foundation. So the Stacks Foundation serves as like a steward of the ecosystem. So our interest is making sure that we deliver on our mission of building a user-owned internet. And for us, what that means is supporting builders and community members who believe in the mission and who want to advance Stacks over the long term. So at the foundation, we recognize that we can't build everything. And also, if Stacks is going to be this worldwide mission, we have to share that work with people around the world. So we understand that we're not going to know all of the challenges that let's say the Stacks Spain community faces. There's no way that I would know exactly what the Stacks Spain community needs. So we have community leaders like you, Mirlo, who would build Stacks in the way that is best for the community there. So the foundation supports community programs. Like we have a Stacks Chapters program where we fund and work with community leaders in different regions to evangelize Stacks in their regions. And everybody has different challenges, like I mentioned, and we can't know those challenges well enough because we're not from those regions. And there's obviously a language barrier. So we provide a lot of resources and support for that kind of community building. And even more important than that is just supporting builders themselves. So there are people around the world who want to build applications and tools that make this new internet accessible to more people. And we do that through the grants program. We do that with just direct work. So Mirlo, you have submitted an application to the grants program. For example, you have this amazing platform called Smartists. That wants to support artists around the world with licensing for NFTs. And so I think that you can attest to that process where we're working closely with you to figure out, what technical resources do you need? How much funding do you need to get this project off of the ground? And just making sure that we set you up for success. And I think oftentimes it can require us to try to think about the future a lot. So when there's a tool that everybody in the community needs but doesn't exist yet, we try to do the research to figure out who can build that so that other community members are empowered to build more things. So some of those things include like a decentralized exchange or like an Oracle. These are all tools that developers and builders need to create more of the products that would make the internet, the new internet, more accessible to mainstream users.
Absolutely, I understand that when I, as you explained, you are right now building a new internet and a better internet means a lot of of work in infrastructure. I mean, in the tools even the developers need. That's what you are focusing right now, especially. But I remember when it started, there are also many apps like the one I am building, and so that are already trying to make something really useful for the end user. And some great wonderful apps were developed on Blockstack, and they still are right now working very, very well. We will have the chance to at Universidad Francisco Marroquín to know some of them, but I used to call this the renaissance of the internet, because for me as an end user, I had the impression that becomes something really new for the user, for the end user. And I think maybe in the attendees, we have these end users who are not really still in the blockchain. They don't know so much about blockchain, but they are using applications, and I don't know if they know about these new applications. And now we are starting a new page, and lots of new possibilities. I wanted today, I shared an article that with an interview of where Munib explains, Munib Ali, I don't know if you heard, the co-founder of Stacks. He explains that this wave of NFTs, for example, I don't know if in the audience someone who has heard about NFTs, I hope so. These NFTs have been in the word of the town these days. They make very, very clear how this new blockchain brings back the idea of ownership, but online, which is everyone understands that you can own a house. It says a house, a car, or anything, but digitally that was not possible until now. And NFTs make it very, very clear that ownership, that kind. So when we talk about a user-owned internet, which is what Stacks is trying to build, what kind of applications do you envision, or what do you think it's going to be the next wave of applications?
Yeah, I completely agree with this trend of NFTs, and for well, so NFTs are really popular right now, and they've been in the space for a while. Some of you may have heard about like CryptoKitties, for example, and so far one of the bigger use cases for NFTs is like collectibles, right? So if you're playing a game online and you get a badge or something, you get this collectible, or you like earn a prize. The reason it's special on the blockchain, so NFT stands for non-fungible token, for those of you who aren't familiar with it. The reason it's so special when it's on a blockchain is because the copy of that piece of art that you get is, when it's created, it's time-stamped on the blockchain, so you can actually verify that that's the original. And if it's so when it's minted and given to the user who owns it, like you can prove that this is the original copy and that this person owns it. Obviously on the internet, like you can take screenshots and you can proliferate content as much as you want, and it's hard to sort of figure out the origination point of it. But with NFTs, you can verify that owner. You can attribute credits to that person, and that's why it's such a big deal for artists to be able to monetize on something that they can prove is theirs, that they own, that they created. And I think with the reason that NFTs are so big right now is because the use case goes beyond art, right? So you can think of other things where you need to verify ownership and you need to verify originality. Think about a research paper or intellectual property. Imagine if when you publish a research paper or something, it could be turned into an NFT, so you can prove that it was published this time and it was published by this person. And so you as the creator of it can attribute credits to yourself, and you can control the access that people have to it, because you can prove that you're the sole owner of it. So I think that that's like a huge application of this kind of technology and of smart contracts. And smart contracts make that possible because you can basically dictate exactly how a transaction is executed. So you can verify like this NFT goes to this person, and that can all be done in code. You don't have to have a third party, like PayPal or something, send that for you. So I think that model of thinking is really making waves in the mainstream community, because there have been all sorts of issues with artists not getting the credit that they deserve, not getting the profits that they deserve. So it's for me, it's not just about the fact that like NFTs are cool. It's inspiring people to think differently about credits and profit and origination and ownership, like you mentioned, Georgina.
Yeah, and I know in the Stacks ecosystem there are already projects of and then platforms of NFTs, to make NFTs and to start like marketplaces which are being built, and they are using these smart contracts on Bitcoin. They are using this language Clarity, and if you could, because this is now we are talking about what Stacks 2.0 brings to the table. Since January, since it's since January, because it's when it was launched. And I wanted to ask you about this Clarity. What makes the difference of this language of smart contracts? So far, the most popular language was on Ethereum, which the Solidity smart contract, but Clarity brings some other abilities, and it's a very different language, and it opens the opportunity to bring all kind of businesses to Bitcoin, and also DeFi, decentralized finances. So I wanted you to tell us about that too, if you want.
Sure. Yeah. So I think Solidity is a popular smart contract language, and Clarity is the native smart contract language of Stacks, and it has been specifically designed to not completely eliminate, but watch out for common vulnerabilities in smart contract languages. So Clarity is, it's a Lisp-like language, so I think the syntax can be a little more complicated for your typical web developer to pick up, but once you do, the payoff for using Clarity is really high. So one of the features, for example, is that Clarity contracts are predictable. So the code that you're writing, the phrase is, what you see is what you get. So the code that you're writing for a Clarity smart contract is exactly what you say the code is supposed to do. It will do that. I think in other languages that's not the case. It'll be interpreted, and you can't always know exactly what's going to happen once the code is executed. So Clarity has been designed very meticulously for those reasons, and the reason it's been designed that way is because with smart contracts you're dealing with very sensitive information. Oftentimes it's transactions, right? You're dealing with people's money, and when you're executing transactions automatically, especially if these transactions are worth millions of dollars, you want to be able to protect that transaction as much as possible. And so I'm gonna rewind a little bit and talk a little bit about just smart contracts in general and the power of them. So earlier I mentioned this concept of smart contracts being very powerful because you don't need a third party or an intermediary to facilitate the transaction. So everybody is probably familiar with like PayPal and TransferWise. You're trusting that institution to get your money to this person on time in the right way, and you obviously pay transaction fees for something like that. with smart contracts, it's basically it's called a smart contract because it is a contract between more than one party, but it is a contract that can be executed automatically with code, and so those contracts or those agreements that you write can be really, really complicated. That's why they're so powerful. So Mirla, you mentioned like houses can be NFTs, right? So that can be written into a smart contract where, you say that with this smart contract, I am designating this person as the owner of my house, and that can be executed automatically without like a legal party present to do that. And this idea of facilitating quick peer-to-peer transactions is so powerful because it really it really speaks to ownership, right? It's like you are saying, no, I want this person to have this, or I want my money to go here, and this contract can do that for you. You don't have to trust someone to do that for you. And so with Clarity, obviously we want all of that to be possible, but we did design the language so that it could optimize for as few mistakes as possible, because you are dealing with a lot of sensitive information, like people's money and like people's tokens. And I think you had another question about Bitcoin, Georgina.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I wanted to, these smart contracts, the smart contracts on stacks with Clarity, they bring, they can be, you can make your applications using these smart contracts on Bitcoin using, the choice of Bitcoin. I know you can explain why it's explained in the white paper. We can share it afterwards. But why they chose Bitcoin, it's in terms of security and everything. But at the same time, which is very interesting, is to talk about Bitcoin. What is the difference between Bitcoin and the rest of cryptocurrencies? Sure. Even if some of them are very strong and very widely used, Bitcoin maybe not so much, because it had this limitation, but until now with stacks, there's a huge opportunity here for all kind of businesses and DeFi to go back to come to Bitcoin.
Yeah. Okay. So I can talk a little bit about that. So previously, there have been projects that have tried to build on top of Bitcoin, and so this isn't a completely new concept. What Stacks does is in February of last year, we came out with this white paper that talked about a new consensus mechanism called proof of transfer, and that consensus mechanism basically builds a connection between the Stacks blockchain and the Bitcoin blockchain without altering the Bitcoin blockchain, right? So that mechanism allows the Stacks blockchain to interact with the Bitcoin blockchain without changing anything there. I don't think anything needs to be changed about the Bitcoin blockchain. And so the question is, why did we choose to work with Bitcoin in this way? The short answer is that Bitcoin is the strongest sovereign blockchain. It's been around for a very long time, longer than other blockchains. And it is so established and so secure that we believe it makes the most sense for it to be the anchor of the new internet, or the settlement layer. So by settlement layer, I mean that it's the layer or the source of truth. So you reference that layer for the truth or for all verified official information about every transaction made in the ecosystem above it. And the long answer is that we're living in a reality where many blockchains exist, and each one has its own strengths and use cases. I don't think it's a situation of one blockchain to rule them all. I think a lot of people in this space believe that we're moving toward a reality where there's a network of blockchains, and while a network of blockchains is a really compelling idea, the settlement layer idea is that this network will be anchored in one secure, reliable blockchain. And right now, that blockchain we think is Bitcoin. And so on, just to give like a little more context, on the traditional internet, you have the TCP/IP protocol, and that governs all the communications between computers on the internet, basically a set of rules for the traditional internet and how information is transmitted on that network. on the new internet, we think that the Bitcoin protocol, so all the rules governing, Bitcoin transactions, will be the one governing transactions and communications between all blockchains. And so for us, it's so powerful to have stacks anchored in Bitcoin because we get to benefit from its security and we get to benefit from the fact that it is so established. And I would say that Bitcoin is good for the same reasons that people also think it has shortcomings. So Bitcoin is designed to do very little, like beyond the Bitcoin cryptocurrency. You're not really meant to build applications on top of it. And you're not really meant to build smart contracts on top of it. It has a very limited scripting language, and that's a good thing. But so Stacks is able to, again, like anchor to Bitcoin and benefit from its security, but it brings all the functionality that you would want on a new internet. So with the Clarity smart contract language, you can have smart contracts on Bitcoin and you can have applications on Bitcoin without, again, like I said, changing the Bitcoin blockchain. All of that can live on the Stacks blockchain. So it basically extends the functionality of Bitcoin and it scales it as well.
Yeah, and on top of that, you can explain what is stacking. Stacking. With, that's very, because it's another. We have been talking about Bitcoin, but now it's good to also to talk about stacks, which is the cryptocurrency, which is used as a fuel for smart contracts, if I understand it well, for these smart contracts with Clarity. Isn't that so?
Yes. Okay, so
explain what is Stacks.
Sure. So yeah, like I mentioned, there's a unique connection between Stacks and Bitcoin, and that's because of this consensus mechanism called proof of transfer. So some of you might be familiar with proof of work or proof of stake. So something like proof of stake, you would actually, maybe it's not helpful to talk about that. I can just talk about proof of transfer. So in the consensus mechanism on Stacks, you have two parties. You have miners and stackers. And these parties are responsible for basically facilitating transactions on the Stacks blockchain. So you have miners who commit Bitcoin to the network. So that's basically in order to join or to participate in the network, these miners commit some amount of Bitcoin. And in return for that, they can mint new Stacks tokens. So they can write a new block and earn new Stacks tokens. And then on the other side, you have stackers. So these are token holders in the ecosystem who lock up their Stacks tokens. And in return for doing that work, they earn Bitcoin. So the same Bitcoin that was committed by miners. And this process, this ecosystem, it helps secure the Stacks blockchain. So when you're a stacker, and when you lock up your Stacks tokens, you're helping to signal where we are in the process of writing blocks on the Stacks blockchain. So all of it is really beneficial to the growth and security of the Stacks blockchain, and it's also very rewarding. It's the first consensus mechanism that rewards token holders of the native cryptocurrency. So token holders or Stacks token holders are rewarded in a more established base currency, which is Bitcoin. And that's how it works on the Stacks blockchain. The reason that mechanism is so powerful is because it can apply to other cryptocurrencies as well. So someone can create their own blockchain or bootstrap their own blockchain with Stacks as the base currency. So let's say you had a Georgina token. You could use that same mechanism to mint, to have a Georgina token on top of Stacks, and you could benefit from the security of Stacks, and so on and so forth. So this, one of the special things about this mechanism is that it allows new blockchains and new tokens to benefit from the security of a more established token, and that's what we want, right? Like it's not with this mechanism, it's not about making everybody use Stacks tokens. I think that we want to empower people, like I said, to give them the tools to create the conditions that they need to have a user-owned internet for themselves. And for some people, that might mean having a token native to their own application. It can be very difficult to bootstrap your own blockchain. And in the early days, it can be weak and insecure. So this gives people a method to do that without compromising on security. So with something like stacking, it also gives a huge incentive users to participate in the network, because who wouldn't want to earn Bitcoin? And it obviously has an impact on the value of Stacks as well, because beyond a cryptocurrency, Stacks is a utility token. Like you said, Mirlo, it's used to fuel smart contracts, and it can be used in so many different ways. And by rewarding users right now with Bitcoin, so this more established cryptocurrency, you're also just giving the network time and resources to build the utility of Stacks itself, and that can be applied to any new tokens that are launching using this mechanism.
Yeah. So for entrepreneurs to understand that they have here some technology which puts security and strength before, it provides this kind of tools which are really reliable, and I think it's very interesting. I want to I want to thank you thank a lot. I'm always very grateful to the technology, but especially to the engineers who do that, because it's really very, very helpful for those who want to build something on that. Even I always say in this community, which is very technical, that I'm not technical, and it's for me, it's sometimes I learn every day, I learn new things, and it's very interesting for me to feel confident that there's this interest in the users of the technology to be really supported in this with the strength of stacks on Bitcoin and everything. Bitcoin, actually, it's a few days ago they said it was going to be considered like, well, it's called always the gold. But beyond that, Stacks makes it useful to do something else. And I know this is something in the community you are now trying to share, and it's very interesting. Like if we are addressing now, if entrepreneurs are listening now, they should know that, well, Bitcoin, you'll hear it's gold, it's good as a store of value and everything, but now with Stacks you can do many more things with,
exactly. I heard a great analogy from a community member I was talking to about this. People often call Bitcoin digital gold, and gold, as we know, it has intrinsic value, but it doesn't do anything on its own. You have to turn it into something. And so what this community member said that I thought was brilliant was that Bitcoin is like digital gold, and so it has some value. We already value it in the same way that we value gold intrinsically, but because it becomes more valuable when you turn it into something like jewelry, right? When you give it a use case like that, you're digging up this gold and you're turning it into something that other people want to use beyond just having it sit like a rock somewhere. So the way that you can look at Stacks is the Stacks ecosystem is what provides you the tools to turn that into something. So you might want to, earlier I said that Stacks extends the functionality of Bitcoin and it scales it. It gives you the tools to be able to do that. So I mean, whether you want to turn it into jewelry or something else, it's up to you. But like this person described NFTs as like NFTs on Bitcoin as jewelry, turning digital gold into jewelry. I thought that was a great analogy, and I think that this idea of increasing the utility is what we need to wrap our heads around. Is it's some people question, why is Bitcoin valued so much? It's just a bubble. It's just people wanting it to, the price to go up, which is partially true. But what's also happening in the background is builders are using that utility of Bitcoin, using years of established security to turn it into something useful for mainstream users. And I envision a future in which people could be using applications and not know that it's powered by crypto, or not know that it's powered by blockchain. And I think a lot of people agree with that. Like, you want to abstract the complexity away. And I think that, we're a little far off from that, but people are starting to understand this idea a little better. And I think that's really exciting. With like NFTs, you have these mainstream use cases, and you have NFTs on other networks as well. That, you know, Ethereum is probably the most popular for its NFTs, but this idea of NFTs on Bitcoin is really attractive because it means that you can have fine art, something really valuable on the blockchain that's going to be around forever. So that I think that there's a lot of value and utility in that.
Yeah, and the thing that the fact that it's so decentralized. How many? There are millions of people having already wallets, Bitcoin wallets. So it's something really decentralized. Bitcoin is really the most decentralized. I mean, the most used cryptocurrency here, or the most stored. So it's good that people start thinking of it as something else than just a storage of value. So that's good. So, and now before, I don't know if there are questions, if we have, if there is someone who wants to make questions, it's a good time. And since while they think of some question, I would like you to invite the audience to learn more about stacks and get involved. How do they do that?
Yes, please. You can take this as my formal invitation. I'm aware that there's a learning curve in crypto, and I should say that when I started with the Stacks community, I don't come from a technical background. I did work with software engineers before I joined Stacks and the crypto world. I joined in spring of 2019, and it took me years to understand these concepts. I was just pretending to understand, and there are still so many things that don't always make sense. But I think it being around people like you, Georgina, who cares so much about a new model of the internet, it really helps you internalize some of these concepts. And so I think that I just want to come out and say it's really common not to understand all the technical specifications of this world. I think what matters is understanding the principles and the idea and the ideas and what's possible, right? So understanding that a new internet is possible on Bitcoin is so powerful. Understanding that you as a user have inherent value, that wherever you go, you should be fairly compensated for the content that you create. That's important, because that's the shift in thinking that we need to get people off of these centralized platforms, that are violating our trust and our privacy. And not only that, as a user, being empowered to build these new tools for yourself. So if you're interested in that, if you want to do that, whether you're an entrepreneur or just someone who's interested in that, I think Stacks is a good place to start. And I think that you are all welcome to join our Discord server. I'm there. I'm happy to take questions from people. I'm happy to do one-on-one calls to explain even more of this information to you, or to put you in touch with more technical people if you're interested in the engineering side of it. We're very community oriented and community driven, because I think that we recognize that these are such big problems to solve, and we're not going to solve them without working with a community. And we're all sort of taking it day by day. So yeah, I'd like to invite everyone to join our Discord. And if there are ways that you want to get involved more actively, we have a few community programs. We have the Advocates program, which is, we had this Advantages program under Hero, and now we're hosting it under the Foundation. And the Advocates program enables you to build community in different ways. So if you want to host a hackathon, if you want to host meetups, if you want to do educational content, you can do that through the program and get support, both financial and community support for it. And you also get to join a stacking pool. So we didn't get to talk about stacking a lot, but I did mention that with stacking, you lock up your Stacks tokens for a 2-week period or more, and you earn Bitcoin. So with this Advocates program, you would have access to a stacking pool where community members are pooling their funds, and the foundation would stack a lot of those Stacks tokens. And at the end of a quarter or a period of the Advocates program, everybody would be rewarded in Bitcoin for all of their community building efforts. So it's a great way to get started if you haven't had any Bitcoin yet. And it's a really meaningful way to get started too, because you get to build community for people who really care about this mission. There's also a chapters program, and that's for more established communities. I mentioned this earlier, but if you're the leader of a region that's really interested in bringing Stacks to your your local community. You can apply to start a chapter. We're not currently accepting any more applications for that, but we have chapters in different regions like Stacks MENA, Pakistan, China, Korea, India, and I'm forgetting another one in Turkey. And then after that, we have the grants program. So Georgina, you've participated in the grants program. It's a great way to get funding and support for a project that you have in mind on Stacks. So we fund everything from very technical developer tools to community initiatives. So if you had an idea to build community in a certain way, you can apply for that too. We support a broad range of projects because we think that you can add value to the Stacks ecosystem in many ways, both technical and non-technical. And I head up the grants program. I'm happy to have calls with people who have project ideas and help you write your application, but that's also a great way to get involved. Am I missing anything?
No, I think it's perfect. Just also if there's someone from Spain and everything, they can through the UFM or just look to my LinkedIn or so, they can reach at me too if they want, if they need something in Spanish or so. And then there's a question. Someone, Jorge Moreno Burgos, he asks, do you recommend any particular book or paper to learn about Stacks? In the chat, I just shared the white paper, the Stacks 2.0 white paper, the introduction, the link, so they can see it. But maybe you have some book or some paper or some article, something, or the blog, the forum. I was thinking, I don't know, what do you recommend?
Yes, so I recommend reading those white papers. They're actually not, the Stacks 2.0 white paper isn't too technical. Actually, it gives a very great overview of the blockchain. I would even say we talked about Bitcoin a lot in this fireside chat, and I'm not sure what the audience's familiarity is with Bitcoin, but I read this essay. This is not Stack specific. I'm going to put that in the chat now. I read this essay by Matt Hong a while ago, and it's called Bitcoin for the Open-Minded Skeptic. And I thought it was an excellent essay that really explained to me how bubbles work and why people value Bitcoin and why it's worth considering it as the anchor to the new internet. So I think that's a great place to start if you're wondering about Bitcoin. And then after that, reading some of these Stacks white papers, I think that if you're technical and you're interested in writing smart contracts, reading about Clarity, I believe Harini shared some links about Clarity that compare Clarity to Solidity, and that blog on bringing Clarity to 8 dangerous smart contract vulnerabilities. That's a great place to start too, to understand why Clarity is so powerful. There's so much that I can share. I think, okay, here's another one. I just need to find it. I'm sorry, I should have had these links prepared. I think that this is a great essay by Jenny, the founder of Stacks, or the co-founder of Stacks.
Also, another thing which is very, very, I think it was wonderful for me. It was the YouTube channel, the blog Stack, the Stacks, now the Stacks YouTube, the Stacks channel. You can have a very, very interesting an approach. They are wonderful videos and fireside chats with Munib and Brittany, and I remember some of them. I still keep them in my memory. They were very well, and some historical moments too there. So I think it's a very enhancing and very you feel part of something which is very necessary. This what we talked at the beginning. It's necessary to have a healthy internet, as we are heading to a world where we are needing internet for human communication. And anyway, so that's really it's really very, very important to. Right. So I think also this is also the having this sense of being part of belonging to this new internet is wonderful too.
Yeah, no, I
I cannot
agree. And
say.
I think that so much of our life is our lives are digital now, and it's not. We talk a lot about privacy and respecting users and data ownership, but I think all of that comes down to this issue that I talked about earlier with users really taking back control. And it sounds kind of like a cheesy sort of revolutionary moment, but I think that it is, because we're approaching a reality where the internet, like you say, is so critical to our everyday lives. We do so much of it there, and if you have all of your information about yourself there, all this information about your identity, about your wealth, about yourself, wouldn't you want to have complete control of that? It's I think we talk a lot. We compare a lot of this to your home, right? You own the keys to your home, and you're the person who can unlock and lock that door, and you're the person who can enter. The internet is like your home in a lot of ways, because you have so much information about yourself, and you want to be very mindful about who you're giving those keys to. And so thinking a lot about access control and what ownership means to you on the internet, I think is a really good place to start. I myself think about this a lot. Sometimes, like, I will trade a convenient experience for, an invasion into my privacy. And I'm trying to train myself to move away from that, because I really want to value all of that information about myself. It's so critical to my sovereignty as an individual. And I know that everybody here is interested in this, because you're going through the same process.
Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't add anything more, and I think it's time to close. But just I wanted to also to say that, following your last words, that we are talking about something critical to this, which is privacy and digital rights in our next meeting here next week. So I hope some of the attendees will repeat and will come back with us, and with next time to talk. Also, thank to the Stacks Foundation and to the Stacks and to UFM Madrid for this opportunity to have this conversation about something that is so important for our daily lives, actually. So thank you very much. And
I'm sorry, one thing.
Yes.
My name is Marcela Gonzalez from UFM Madrid, and we, on behalf of UFM Madrid, we would like to thank you, Jenny, to thank you, Georgina, for this very interesting conversation, and all the participants this session. We would like them to join us next Friday to keep talking about this interesting blockchain security and all this very important information that you gave us today. So we will look forward to see you again next Friday at the same time, Friday 16th. Okay. So
Wonderful.
Thank you very much, both. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, hope to see you. Thank you so much for organizing this. I had a lot of fun, and I did just drop a link to our Discord server so that anybody who wants to continue the conversation can continue it there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Georgina.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marcela.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.